in this current state. Honorable members would recall that we had, even at the initial stages, went to DPSA just to request that we make provision for a CFO in line with what we need to do in the department. But at that stage, we were compelled just to deal with the startup structure. On 8.9, we addressing the issue around the FMD facility. Even this morning at the morning meeting with National Treasury, we had made that call to ensure that with the budget facility for infrastructure, this measure can be looked at. We are looking at 8.10 at two issues, one with the NAMC and the other one with the ERC. With the NAMC, honorable members, we are looking at the NAMC resource mobilization strategy. That strategy says that the NAMC is currently underfunded, and they would want to have external sources of funding that would supplement or even complement the current budget that they are having from the parliamentary grants. As indicated by the department, this has got it's a double-edged sword. On the other side, it can lead to good projects that are coming in, but at the same time, it also exposes the National Agricultural Marketing Council to what we would say that exposure to interest that might not necessarily be aligned to the NMC, or an attempt to try and sway the research that the NMC would be doing. So we have embarked on that. And in terms of the ARC, there was a commercialization strategy that the ARC were working on, and that has been approved to go ahead. We are just waiting for the board then to come and brief the minister and ultimately Parliament in terms of the process that has been done on that. On 8.10, we then look at an engagement pattern on the approval status of the very same. My apologies. On 8.11, we then go to the audit improvement plans. I'm happy to whisper that the NMC has done very well. They will come and break the thunder. Their audit report is something that is to be proud of, and they will come and report in terms of those. All the other areas, ARC also, and the OBP together with the department. The ARC has also positive, and the OBP and the department will come and explain their qualified opinions in terms of where the areas are, without stealing the thunder for what is still to come in September. 8.12, the OBP have been having this issue to say that they have got to fill the two posts. Their CFO post has been filled, honorable members. They are currently busy with the CEO position, because the member who was identified, the official who was identified, is currently unavailable, and they had to restart the process. They are starting that process again, and will duly report in terms of that. On the next level of reporting, on 8.12, the 8.13, the filling of the posts at NAMAC. NAMAC is currently filling those posts, but as they were filling the posts and as reported to the portfolio committee, they have lost their CFO, and that CFO was a very good CFO. And therefore, the NMC is working on a strategy to ensure that they have got market-related salaries for their different levels, because it does not help that the NMC really pulls out all the work, ensures that they are out of the qualification opinion from AGSA. And as soon as they are 2 years into that and even have gone one further, and improved, they lose the CFO, who has done pretty well in terms of the work that is where we are. So they are looking at the reward and retention policy to ensure that this has been looked at. On 8.14, the reports in terms of the AMP has been attached for members' reading. It signifies the implementation of the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan in its totality and all through the pillars, including the commodity-based approach that the NMC is leading the Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan on. Now, one area that the department did not deliver on in the 2025-2026 financial year was the National Food and Nutrition Security Plan. That iteration in terms of the development, we are at consultation phase. It is a very important multi-stakeholder, multifaceted plan that would ensure that we have got food security in all the three elements that we have in of food. It is in line with the CAADP or the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program. It is also in line with the Kampala Declaration on Food Security. And the third iteration that leads the 10-year plan that we have from 2024 to 2033 of the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Plan, and also of the Africa we want, as we call it. Now, on 816, there's a concept around the food banks. Now, one has got to pause in terms of this area of work and indicate that the food banks are actually aligned to the plan in terms of food security and nutrition, because they are part and parcel of. Now, food banks in terms of the World Trade Organization would be classified under a program that has got to deal with a context of ensuring that there is food in the world. Now, in that case, we have got to ensure that whatever strategy that we have, it would be able to sustain South Africa's commitments in terms of the WTO. At this moment, quite a few countries have got this level of articulation, but we are working towards it in terms of our negotiations at the WTO to ensure that we can also provide a broader context instead of food banks, but a broader context of where government can be able to, without impacting on the market itself or alternating or impacting negatively on the market, be able to have food security arrangements that are social in nature and would be able to respond where we have got hunger in our systems to supplement the current social security initiatives that the country has. We are also looking at the issue on the portfolio committee had duly advised that we should also look at having farmer-managed seed systems or seed banks. We are happy to indicate that we already have got 3. They are community-based. In Gumbu, in Starkspruit, and in Jericho, we have got those Eastern Cape, Northwest, and Limpopo, and we are working on ensuring that we establish one in the Northern Cape in Masawatse, or neither way, so that we can build this. So we are building sequentially towards that. On 817, which is the last one that we are looking at, is an issue around the engaging the Minister of Public Service and Administration on the remuneration of veterinarians in South Africa, because they were excluded in terms of OSD, or occupational specific dispensation, when consideration was made in the public service, which is really something that we to date regret, because it could have dealt with the issue that we are currently having. The engagements are advancing in terms of seeing how do we deal with it. But suffice to indicate to the portfolio committee that there is a process that the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation were involved in. And they looked at a process of our current compulsory community service veterinarians and saw the impact that it was making and how it was affecting the sector generally. And what they have made a few recommendations, and those recommendations, as and when we have engaged broadly with the minister and also with the DPME, those will be proceeding to the portfolio committee, because they make a call that would change the way that we deal with CCS in the whole of South Africa. Without stealing the thunder out of that presentation, I will allow it to come through, because with my brevity, I might just be misinterpreting the whole aspects. But the aspect is that if you have got to look at CCS provision and you look at the current level of vacancies that we have in the public sector, it might be of opportune that the department and the country looks at it differently and utilize the funds towards courses that would assist us to deal with transboundary animal diseases. That would conclude the presentation that we have around the BRRR, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ADG. I think the approach should be you just table all the presentations, then we're going to have discussions after all three presentations have been tabled.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for the guidance. It is much appreciated. The next presentation would be on the update on the state implementation of the livestock identification. We have got an ask, Chair. That ask is that we members would like to see, we have minutes just on how the system works, but if not, we will request time so that we can take the honorable members through that system. Dr. Mudisani?
Thank you very much, DJ. And thank you very much to the chair of the portfolio committee, and then the honorable members, DM, and the colleagues that are in the meeting. I will briefly take the portfolio committee through an update on where we stand with LEADS. We call it LEADS SA, South African LEADS, and indicate what still needs to be done up to so far. Next slide. Just to explain, it's very important for me to emphasize that currently the country does not have an official livestock traceability system. I am emphasizing the point of official is because we have been evaluated by many a country for purposes of trade in animals and animal products. And we have also been evaluated by the World Organization of Animal Health for purposes of animal disease control. In many of these evaluations, there were conclusions that indicated concern that South Africa does not have an official livestock and traceability system. And they indicated that we are not in a position to provide guarantees to trading partners, or we will not be in a position to provide guarantees to trading partners that the products that the country is selling to them is indeed safe. And the conclusion was that we will not be able to, we will struggle to control animal disease should the country experience outbreaks of
I'm not sure whether is it my network or is it the network of the presenter. Honorable members.
Yes, Chair. Yeah, we hear that the silence.
I think it's his network.
And some glitches.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Chair. I see he's still on the platform.
No, that's fine.
Dr. Mudisani, the August PC had lost you, so if you may just...
You still can't hear? Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, honorable members, I hear that I was inaudible. Maybe I should start from the beginning. I was indicating that we don't have an official livestock and traceability system as a country. And as a result, even if we have been evaluated by many a country on trade in animals and animal products, we always had negative outcomes from a point of view that we cannot provide guarantees to trading partners that the products that we are selling are indeed safe. And as a result, some of our exports to trading partners were disqualified. And then these negative evaluations led to the department wishing that they could improve on available systems. We had the Animal Identification Act, and then which was insufficient according to the evaluations that we have received. And then we developed a veterinary strategy from 2016. In this veterinary strategy, there was an emphasis that we should also develop a livestock identification and traceability system. Next slide. The most important thing, again, is to also emphasize the benefits that we would receive with the livestock identification and traceability system. We will be in a position to do better animal disease control. Will enable rapid tracing of infected and exposed, including at-risk animals during outbreaks. With the presence of the leads, would be in a position to perform better movement restrictions, and to a very large extent, reducing unnecessary economic losses. We'll be able to detect diseases much faster, but will also be in a position to guarantee in terms of value chains. It is very important to emphasize this fact because we understand that for us to be able to open market, we have to have a livestock and traceability system. To a very large extent, we can also improve on genetic performance, being in a position to record and supporting breeding decisions. We'll be able to also guarantee food safety and then improve on consumer trust. Honorable members may remember that we also had an incident of listeria in which we would have been in a position to shorten time to identify human exposure pathways during zoonotic events. Next slide. We can also emphasize that we in the strategy also managed to develop a policy which was approved by the department in 2018. But during our attempts to legislate, there were other issues that were raised in terms of the legislation. So we have been trying to resolve these issues up to so far. The fact that there are so many issues related to the legislation. There were issues related to protection of wealth of the individuals, because when we wanted to legislate, the farmers were of the opinion that we might be exposing their wealth to everybody. We wanted the many systems that are available from particularly in the country, some of which were basically overseas hosted, to be able to talk to a national system. To resolve the issues, basically, we needed to come up with our own system to make sure that the information that is on the system itself is not necessarily available to everyone, especially overseas. And then we won't necessarily be talking to anyone external in terms of personal information. To a very large extent, these were the issues that we wanted to really ensure that they are safe in terms of the BRRR Act. The department approached the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, to assist the department to develop a system with a database that will be used specifically for the livestock identification and traceability system. And the CSIR started to develop the database in 2020 after we received an approval to deviate from our normal supply chain management processes, and then by the department, and then also through National Treasury. The one reason why the CSIR was approached is because they developed the biometric technology, or they assisted in developing the biometric technology for the Smart ID card for the Republic. The phases that we employed, and maybe also emphasizing the development since 2020. For leads, we wanted to look at registration and identification of animals, registration of establishments, movement permit issuance, traceability of animals, and statistics that relate this, including reporting. There were several modules that were developed since 2020, including a reporting model, animal health recording model, dashboard module, registration module, ear tag management module, animal movement module, and then also key events like animal births, animal deaths, and then animal reporting of stolen animals, and so on. And to a very large extent, these modules were developed by the CSIR. Next slide. And then this is an update on the stages of development and some of the concerns that may have been raised related to stage 1 development, the core development and functionality and usability testing, user acceptance testing. They were all done. And then performance and integration. And then they were done 100% from the CSIR point of view. And then stage 2 included the migration of phase 1. That is now, as we are developing phase 2 of this migration of the data that was previously in phase 1, that is completely developed up to so far. And then migrating this data, it is currently 95%, or when we drafted this, it was 95%. And then this were also related to security and compatibility, and 95% concluded. And then the most important thing at this moment is now to do communication to stakeholders, and then testing by national champions, and then provincial training. And then we are looking at shutting down phase 1 and rolling out phase 2. Maybe what I should explain now to the PC portfolio committee is that the stage 1 development of the leads database development was completed in 2023, and we commenced from 2023 with stage 2, which mainly included issues of ear tag management and also movement control. In the next slide, we are showing again the process flow in terms of the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase, where we are at this moment and going into the future. As indicated, leads phase 1 was completed in 2023. Leads phase 2 has just been concluded, and then it included issues of expansion to include issues of movement control and ear tag management. We have also started with leads the phase 3, which is basically rollout and migration to the department. And then phase 4 will now be a situation where we'll be having our national platform. Let me again re-emphasize the official system, which will be continuously improved as we go into the future. Next slide. Just to also update the portfolio committee on the layers. The first layer includes animal movement and disease traceability. And then the second layer includes registrations, animal movement, event recording, and establishment recording. Second layer is inspections, which is a core business module, disease notifications, movement permits, traceability. And then integration and insight is integration layer and reporting. And we will be in a position to also do analytics and insights related to this database that has been developed by the CSIR for us. Next slide. Again, this is an attempt to also demonstrate to the portfolio committee the landing space or landing page for the livestock identification and traceability, that if you open it, these are the modules that key features that you will find in the landing page. One can just click on the first box and then start working on that first box, and then we can go to the other boxes and include the other information. And I indicate the collaboration between the department and the CSIR then. Next page. This is how, if you are in Limpopo and you want to put information in, indicating that there are 43,000 registered animals. There are so many owners, and then also categorizing them by commercial and communal, and then the number of establishments that have been recorded, and then also the number of movements. Next slide. And then again, these are the core modules indicating from the livestock registrations up to traceability. Next slide. Can you go next slide? This is now basically to also demonstrate the system administration, users, offices, livestock owners, establishments. Most important, honorable members, is to also see that there is an element of pharmaceuticals, that is the use of medicines in those animals, that will also be in the administration. And then the key events that I've already spoken about. We will in the end be having animal health records, heads, and then also tagged animals. In the next slide, I go back to re-emphasize the themes, and then also indicate what capability has been developed up to so far, and then the business benefits and the outcomes. Outcomes including enhanced trade, disease control and management, and then we'll also be able to do disease risks management, and then also we'll be having a source of truth in terms of our system. Next slide. Our recommendation is that the portfolio committee should note the progress related to this, and then livestock identification and traceability system, and to record the progress that has been done up to so far. Over to you, DJ.
DG, the last
Thank you very much, Chair. We will then proceed to the colleges, and with Chair permitting, we can just do a quick demonstration if honorable members are okay with it, but we'll go first to the integration of the colleges. Thank you very much, Chair. You will then ask DDG Lebohang Butsileng to make the presentation.
Thank you so much, DG, and good afternoon to the portfolio chair and the committee members and the deputy minister. As requested by the DG, we will be taking the committee through the questions that the committee had around the integration of agricultural colleges in the country. We may go to the next slide. This is just to show the 3 areas that the presentation will touch. Just at the beginning, we need to, the department indicates that the 11 colleges of agriculture in the country are currently administered by the 10 provinces in the, by the 6 provinces rather in the country. There is an exception to 2 colleges. One is the Grootfontein Agricultural Development Institute. This college reports directly to the National Department of Agriculture. The other one is Fort Cox in the Eastern Cape. They have what we call semi-autonomy. They are running themselves semi-autonomously. The province is only assisting them with compensation of employees. But in the main, these colleges are residing with the provinces and are under the administration of the respective MECs. The National Department of Agriculture do come in the picture of these colleges in assisting with governance and funding the operations of the colleges through a program, CASP. One of the pillars of the Comprehensive Agriculture Development Program talks to these colleges. It's called College Revitalization Plan. But solely in that pillar, we are assisting these colleges with infrastructure. Initially, it had other pillars like your ICT, your student and lecturer support, but because the funding was not enough, together with the provinces, a decision was taken that in order to avoid to be thinly spread along the pillars, but our impact on the ground be minimal, a decision was taken that we collapse all the pillars and focus on infrastructure support of these colleges. The Department of Higher Education, by their virtue of them being responsible for higher education in the country, are the ones that are exercising regulatory role on these colleges. Next slide, please. Historically, the colleges of agriculture, like we indicated in our previous slide, are under the provincial administration. However, all these colleges, the 11 of them, are providing qualification that is pitched at NQF level 6. Others even tread into NQF level 7, which is an equivalent of a degree, particularly Elsenbeck in the Western Cape and Sidara in Northern Cape. And by the virtue of those qualifications, it makes those qualifications to be in the terrain of higher education. And according to the Constitution, higher education in this country is the responsibility of the Minister of Higher Education and Training. And that makes what this college stands for currently to be a legislative anomaly. And in order for this to address this anomaly, both the 2 departments, Department of Higher Education and in particular last year around October, the minister there approved the policy, the recognition of South African higher education institutional types. And in summary, this policy locate or distinguish the different types of higher education institutions in the country. And according to that policy, these 11 colleges are placed under a category called higher education colleges. And that is the move that both 2 departments have been in a process to try and integrate or comply with both the Constitution, the Higher Education Act, and this recently gazetted policy on the recognition of South African higher education institutions in order to make these colleges to be in their rightful standing legislatively and operate as higher education and recognized under the Act, because currently there's no act that governs these colleges of agriculture besides them offering those qualifications that by implication make them to be higher education colleges. Next slide, please. I've already touched on this just to show the legislative framework. We've alluded to the Constitution, the Higher Education Act, but maybe to be specific, Section 21 of the Higher Education Act empowers the Minister of Higher Education to do two things in as far as these colleges or any other higher education institution that finds itself in the similar situation, that the minister may declare those colleges as higher education colleges or incorporate them as a subdivision of a university or a university college, depending on the situation at hand. It is upon the minister, after consultation, how they would choose to declare those institutions. But those are the two options as per Section 21 of the Higher Education Act. In an attempt to integrate these colleges, like we indicated, that them operating under the provincial administration whilst they are higher education institutions, the two departments, again, higher education and Department of Agriculture, consulted the Asset Cabinet Committee in September 2020 to present options of how these colleges can be integrated into the Higher Education Act. And the Cabinet approved the two departments of the two decisions. One was these colleges should be transferred into a national competence under the auspice of the Minister of Agriculture. And the Minister of Agriculture was specifically assigned two responsibilities. One was funding, and the other one was daily administrative processes in order to fully integrate these colleges. And the second one was the Minister of Higher Education would still be responsible for the legislative competence of these colleges. And the two departments were again given permission to continue with the process of preparing for the integration of these colleges into higher education. Next slide, please. The department here is just providing who has been consulted in terms of that section of the Act, Section 21 of the Act. And the two ministers, Minister of Higher Education and Training and the Minister of Agriculture, have agreed, they met and agreed that the two departments need to finalize the preparatory processes, and by 1 April 2027, these colleges should be declared as higher education, or those that choose to go for an option of being incorporated as subdivisions of universities, that should be happen. And as part of the preparation, acknowledging that according to the Act, Higher Education Act and the Constitution, higher education is not the responsibility of the Minister of Agriculture. Minister of Higher Education has since signed a delegation agreement which gives the Minister of Agriculture a purview around the areas of administration and funding for these colleges. And the two ministers, again, as part of consultation, the technical teams from both higher education and agriculture have done a desktop analysis of the preferred model through which, when these colleges are integrated, that model will be at play. And the two ministers have already shared their preferred model, which we will get to a slide of what are those models. And the Minister of Agriculture also had engagements with the 6 MECs under whose these colleges currently are residing through a MINMAC process. And we can indicate to the committee that of the 6 MECs, 4 have already declared or confirmed their support for this process, that they are willing that these colleges should be integrated into higher education. And those are Eastern Cape, Free State, Limpopo, and Northwest. KZN has since, the MEC in KZN has since requested the minister of both two ministers actually for consultation, just for further engagement before she could indicate her stance, the provincial stance in this. The MEC for Western Cape has since provided a written communication to the minister around the concerns that the province has around this process. And provinces, in one of the most recent MINMEC, the Minister of Agriculture has since given the MECs an opportunity to say they should in writing declare their preferred model of the three models that the two departments had presented. And there is also a continuous consultation with currently these colleges as a form of provision of oversight to these colleges. They are that oversight is provided by a structure called advisory boards, and they are operating at different levels, also considering that these colleges also share different histories. So that is that those structures of those colleges have also been consulted to know that at the date of the declaration, they will cease to be, because the Act prescribes that the governance will now reside with a council, not an advisory body that is not necessarily legislated. Next slide, please. Post the signing of the protocol by the two ministers, there was also that one was a delegation according to the Act. There is also a protocol that the two DGs have already signed, where the DG of Higher Education was delegating in line with the two ministers' delegation certain functions around funding and delegation. So the deputy DG of Agriculture has already signed a protocol where he will take responsibility of those. Another structure that is overseeing this process is a steering committee chaired by the two DDGs, DDG University Education from the Department of Higher Education, and DDG Food Security and Agrarian Reform from the Agriculture. And below them, there are different work streams ranging from finance, human resource development, ICT, in preparation of this process. But very important that one needs to indicate to members is the process may be how advanced and maybe how successful. The most important, as per the Section 42 of the Treasury Regulation, is that the funds that are currently supporting these colleges at a provincial level needs to follow this function to a national competence. And the same will apply to the assets and the lecturers' human resource capacity that currently is under the supervision and administration of the Provincial Department of Agriculture. We have spoken about this policy recognition of South African higher education institutional type. I will not want to repeat. Next slide, please. In order to ensure that this process again is completed and all the revenues and the support, like we indicated, are following the function, we're working with DPSA as the employer. We're working with a National Treasury and the Committee on Finance, constituting of the provincial treasuries where these colleges are, in order to locate and follow the funds that are supporting these colleges currently. And just to show that this there is a determination to see this process through, the Department of Higher Education in this current financial year have lifted this process or this activity to be part of their annual performance plan in order for the department and the minister to see it through. And we are trying that by the two departments that our processes are aligned to the October midterm budget cycle of government, in order to also provide policy support for all the processes that will entail the process. Next slide, please. we've been referring to a model that we said the MECs of the 6 provinces need to declare their models. The Higher Education Act prescribes the 2 avenues, either incorporation. An example will be the then Lawfeld College of Agriculture that was based in Mpumalanga during the 5th administration, when the country decided that they need to expand the higher education or the university landscape in the country. There was the University of Solplaki in Northern Cape and University of Mpumalanga. The current University of Mpumalanga came into be by incorporating one of the colleges of agriculture into that. So Lawfeld College of Agriculture was incorporated into University of Mpumalanga. That's one example that we've always referred to when we talk to MECs, that at one point of the discussion seem to be slanting into the avenue of incorporation. But we are propagating for, and this is a research that was done in 2017, where Cabinet had given the 2 departments again to go and look for modalities and models through which this process can be seen through. And those 3 options or models is: 1, it is upon the Minister of Higher Education, after consultation with all the necessary stakeholders, that they continue, and the list at this point will be the MECs which are currently administering these colleges, is either to declare these colleges as they are. Just make a declaration that Solo and Fort Cox, Mazivandela and Tompiseleka and Limpopo will just be declared as autonomous institutions and remain as they are. The other option is to group these colleges for cost efficiency and more of a better integration into the system into 3 multi-campuses according to the regions. Or the most preferred model is South Africa just the minister declare these colleges as one national college for agriculture with 11 campuses. We'll get to the slide where we weigh in these options, the pros and cons of those. Next slide, please. If we are just here giving the options, those 3 options, that if we declare these colleges as they are, those colleges will still be able to operate as autonomous institutions. And maybe just for the interest of the committee members, this agricultural colleges sector in this country, the students there are excluded from a national student financial aid. They do not benefit from NSFAS, because according to the NSFAS Act, the institutions that benefit from NSFAS would be institutions that report to the Minister of Higher Education, and these colleges currently do not. So these colleges, most of them are in the rural areas of this country, but students studying there are unable to access NSFAS. And it is believed that through this process of integrating them into national competence and legislatively falling under the Minister of Higher Education, those poor students will be able to benefit. The other thing is that they are able again to provide those vocational training according to the developmental goals of the provinces where they are based, and their funding will also now be appropriated by the Department of Agriculture. So that is the benefit of the declaration. But if we go the incorporation route, if Taung College in the Northwest, the MEC there through his consultation decides that he wants that college to be incorporated into the University of Northwest, it will cease to be a college of agriculture. It will be subdued by the administration of the university. It will be up to that university what they want to do. It will maybe be part of the faculty, but not necessarily still maintaining its original intent of providing hands-on vocational agricultural education in the country. And it may also, not may, it will also cease to get the funding from the streams of Department of Agriculture, because now it will be part of an autonomous institution, which is a university. The next slide, please. We are now just sharing the three models of if the minister declare these colleges as they are, or incorporating them. And we have already alluded to the fact that if this college is to be declared as, not declared, but incorporated, their focus and mandate will be different. They will now fall under the university. And if they are declared as the 11 colleges as they are, it is going to be very expensive, because according to the Higher Education Act, these colleges now, because they will be autonomous or independent from government, they would have to have a council. If it is 11 colleges declared as they are, it means the Minister of Higher Education will have to appoint 15 times 11, which is close to 165 council members, which need to be maintained, paid in order to provide oversight to these colleges. Unlike if there is just one college, there will be just one council with 15 members. If the country goes for the 3 regional colleges, at least it will be 15 times 3, 45 council members spread across the 3 colleges. The next slide, please. And we are indicating here that the most preferred and based on the discussions with the 2 ministers is the model of going the route of one integrated college of agriculture with one council and 11 campuses that will still remain in the 11 provinces, serving the interest of the provinces where they are. And that will also help in order to mobilize resources for at least one institution that is, and one other disadvantage is this agriculture sector is more than willing to work with these colleges, but they are hampered because these colleges are handled as units within provincial departments of agriculture. But if this process is to be completed, industry will be dealing with an autonomous institution that can take decision at a campus level. That will also, even the revenue that this college just generate, either by selling the produce in their farms or through tuition as the students pay, they are not able to utilize those funding at the college level. It is returned back to the fiscus because they are not independent or autonomous. We had tried to look to engage National Treasury to see how these colleges could retain their revenue, but we could not find a possible avenue within the Act that would assist us to help them. So they generate funding, but they are not able to use those funding. The 11 colleges, because we have lost one to university. So I'm seeing one member asking that question. There are 11 colleges, and Lawfeld is no longer a college of agriculture. The next slide, please. I have already spoken to this to say the most preferred model is that of one college because it is cost effective. The regional level will also be, if that is the route that the country go, it will provide a little bit of a balanced compromise because each region with the country will still find themselves within that regional college. But if the country goes the 11 colleges, those colleges will still remain as they are and struggle as as they are currently as 11 colleges of agriculture. The next slide, please. We are, towards our conclusion, we are saying, in as much as this process is being pursued by the 2 departments led by the 2 ministers, we acknowledge that there is still a dire need to improve and revitalize these colleges to be what they are supposed to be providing skills development for the agriculture sector. And we have listed there the capacity and capability needs that alongside the process of compliance in integrating them. There's also the transformation part that we need to do in the areas of governance, management, HR, and all those areas that we have listed there. We are pursuing National Skills Fund and AgriSETA because we are working with the Council for Higher Education. CHE has done a proposal for us that if there's funding available, they would spread people in the 11 colleges of agriculture to try and do a feasibility in all those areas so that when funding is made available, there is already a needs assessment that was done on the ground. Next slide. This is just our critical pathway as we conclude our presentation to show to the committee members to say this is our plan. This and all this, we need also to indicate that all these activities or the actions listed here are also prescribed by both the Higher Education Act and the Treasury regulations, that when there's an integration of a function, all those activities need to be adhered to. So as part of the steering committee between the two departments, these are the activities that we had committed to. Some of them, because this process has been taking place since 2013, some of the processes have already been concluded. Others are still to be ensued as consultation with ministers are concluded. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, DM and the DG for taking us through those three presentations. I'm now going to note hands from honorable members who would want to engage with this presentation.
Please, Chair, please note Honorable Aris.
Okay,
Honorable Dalane. Hands up.
hands up, honorable members. I see Honorable Aris.
Dalane.
Dalane. I see Honorable Mtetwa. I see Honorable Van der Walt. I see Honorable Andile Mfutama. I see Honorable Sekaut. Then I see Honorable Tebekulu. Is there any member that I'm missing from the list? Okay. Honorable Aris, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Chair, I just have a few questions. That is in terms of the BRRR. I noted that critical senior vacancies and other senior posts remained vacant for a very long time. So how was the absence of these senior officials affected the financial management and the service delivery? And then also the vacancy rate from 9% to 12%. Chairperson, we want to know why is it that the vacancies increase instead of decrease? And then, Chair, what I notice is that the department rely heavily on, the department keep on saying for us, it's in process, planned, and it's underway. The department must tell us what measurable outcomes have actually been achieved instead of planned activities. And then, Chairperson, on the foot and mouth disease vaccine facility, has still not been approved. What is the causing of this continued delay? And what's the risk that it poses to the country's livestock? And then, Chair, the last one on that one is that the department acknowledge difficulties attracting and retaining skills staff because of salaries. I want to check from the department what long-term strategies will the department use to retain qualified employees within the existing budget constraint. And then on the list presentation, the department must tell us what is the total cost of developing this list systems since it's from 2020 to date. And how much has been paid to CSIR, and were there any cost overruns? And then also, Chair, as the economic freedom fighters, we would like to know that has the department secured sufficient funding for this national rollout and ongoing support? And will this registration on lists be compulsory for livestock owners? And then also, Chair, how will the department ensure that the communal farmers and the smallholder farmers can participate in specific Black emerging farmers? And will there be charges for these farmers if they go on this, or charge for registration, or will there be a user fine, fees, when these people must be on this list system? And then what support will be provided for these farmers who lack internet access and digital literacy? We all know that in the rural areas there's no internet connection, so they must tell us how. And then also, how many farmers have already registered on the pilot project? And then they must also tell us which of these export markets that we as South Africa lost because of inadequate traceability. And then on terms of the college, on the college, Chairperson, we have noted in the presentation that this thing comes since 2020, yet the college are still not integrated, the colleges. What are the major risks that could still delay this implementation? And then in the presentation, they also indicate that some of the MEC support the transfer, while KZN requests further engagement and the Western Cape respond separately. They must tell us which provinces have still not committed to this proposed module. And then what happens if one or more provinces refuses, to buy into this thing? And the presentation repeatedly stated that substantial funds is required. How much funding is actually needed to complete this integration? And we also want to find out if National Treasury committed this funding, or is it still under discussion? And then also, will the transfer reduce funding available for teaching, research, student support? And then most obvious, have the department complete a costing exercise for each integration module? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Aris. We are moving to Honorable Ndalane.
Thanks, Chair, and good afternoon. And let me also start with the colleges on the governance and policies. I wanted to check what is the current legal status of the 11 agricultural colleges, and are they still under provincial department or national department of agriculture? And also, what is the timeline for finalizing the mandate agreement with the Department of Higher Education and Training for NSFAS access? On the issue of funding, what budget has been allocated in 2025-26 specifically for infrastructure, upgrade and fit for purpose facilities at colleges? And the issue of graduate from these colleges, are they automatically qualify for state land allocation and support? And when we cut it on the issue of the executive responses, I'm interested on the timelines. By when can the committee expect written feedbacks on all outstanding recommendations? How will the executive report progress back to the committee on implementation? Will it be quarterly or biannually? Financial matters on audit. What are the main reasons for any budget under expenditure or over expenditure to date? And what corrective measures are in place? What is the status of the addressing prior year audit findings that relate directly to the budget spending? Then lastly, the livestock. What is the rollout plan per province and what role do provincial department of agriculture play? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, my next, Chair. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mteto, you may proceed.
Okay. Thanks. Greetings to honorable members and greetings to fellow officials. I would like us to also respond on a critical matter, the Sakelika case, on an aspect that we didn't reflect on. In Latin, we have a term called quis ipsos contested. This is a Latin term which is actually used to us is quis custodiat ipsos custodes. It means who will guard the guards in terms of accountability when you have now dual stakeholder responsibility on exclusivity on the procurement of vaccines. There is an element of not being guarded of another stakeholder in the equation because the mandate is only resting on the state, but we will come to that part. The reason why I'm raising this part is the behavior of the commercial farmers, which we are now witnessing on the Expropriation Act, which they are challenging in court. There is some stakeholder that we forgot. Amakosi used to have their own, and they still have their own farms where they farm their produce for their own tribes. And this stakeholder is constitutionally recognized, but it is not consulted and engaged in terms of any changes in law, especially in the area of agriculture. And in this case of the Expropriation Act, I would like us to engage them. Why? Because the farms that the commercial white farmers are owning, they owned them through them being taken through forced removal from Amakos. And that's why today we have a shortage of food in the land of Amakos because they used to farm their own food, not buying it from white commercial farmers. So we need to observe that and probably take the matter up and respond to the case that is trending, that is ongoing, a challenge on Expropriation Act. But let me also further move and say in 1975, the commercial white farmers, they passed this law of expropriation to expropriate the farms from the blacks, and it worked for them. Today, they are challenging the same law, which means they no longer have confidence on the law that they enacted. Now that the blacks needs to use the same law to return their land. So this is the deduction and conclusion, is that You return all the land that you took using the same law of expropriation in 1975. If you can return that, then you remain landless. Then we can talk and say, let's challenge the Expropriation Act. But in the current status quo, it must be implemented to return back all the land that was taken, which include amaplats and farms. There is also another thing that we need to observe on the Sakelika case. There is an element of hoarding which results into industrial espionage, whereby vaccines will end up being hoarded by these individuals who want to procure and import into the country, yet the state is also doing the same thing. There's going to be a time whereby there is exhaustion and depletion of stock abroad, and then eventually somebody will be sitting with stock and they'll be charging highest prices for it. So we need to watch out the intentions and the movement and the activities. If that stock is procured after the case that has allowed the exclusivity to be shared, we then must apply another legal principle that says right of first refusal is that that stock must go to the state until the stock is actually filled up in the storages of the state. Then the surplus can go to these individuals. Because we are saying people must come up with information if they have a source of supply abroad and share it so that the state can procure, but people want to go there and procure on their own. We wonder what are the intentions. And moving forward, there is a youth and agricultural graduate structure that was established in 2016. They are crying of the following issues: limited access to production land, limited access to finance, inadequate incubation support, weak integration between research and enterprise, fragmented value chain, high youth unemployment, underutilized public agricultural infrastructure, limited market access, limited postgraduate mentorship program. All of these are challenges of our modern day agricultural graduates. The question is, what is the response from the department? What do we do to respond to this call? Because we do have graduates, they are empowered, they understand the industry, but there's no room for them. Why? Because we have treated Department of Agriculture as a sealed department whereby there's no more growth. Those who have amassed all the farms are the ones who can only grow, and those who were excluded in the process will never grow, which means there is already saturation in the manner in which things are done. May I remind the commercial white farmers, they met with Mandela and they asked Mandela to compromise so that at least we can enter into the 1994 dispensation. But the same white farmers today are betraying Mandela's people by reversing the gains that were made through the compromises and sacrifices. They are challenging expropriation laws. They are challenging Black economic empowerment laws, which it is the same white people who propose Black economic empowerment. Today, they are sabotaging it. Today, they are using the same laws which we compromised, that let's continue using these laws so as to allow stability and legality in the running of a state. But the laws are being used against Black people instead of it working for Black people. So we see legality, but there is unjust illegalities. Why? Because the same laws are used against the same people who were dispossessed by this industry. So on those bases, we need to pay attention to that to ensure that our people, they are also participating in this. Thank you.
Honorable van der Walt.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to limit my questions a little bit, Chairperson, to the colleges. I just want to say something. If we listen to this presentation again, it might be a slip of the tongue, but twice they were referred to 11 and 12 provinces instead of colleges. So here's my questions. I would like to know, first of all, whether we have in the last term or so received any applications for private agricultural colleges to be registered or be part of the training and skills development of potential farmers, especially in our young upcoming farmer market. And if not, if so, what was the successes? Were there any successful negotiations? And if not, why not? I also want to ask, of the current colleges mentioned, what was the successes, the output rates? What happened to those students after they are done with those colleges? Do they really go into farming? If not, why not? And then, Chairperson, I come from the Higher Education Committee, so I'm quite aware of the absolute abuse of the National Skills Fund. I'd really like to know, and if the list is too long, I'll put a written question on the successes in the agricultural sector of any funds and any projects of NSF, as well as the Agri-CETA. I'm very, very worried about that, because it's easy to apply for money. I've read some of that reports of the SIU, and I can tell you how many billions and billions and billions disappeared in a SIU report of over 800 pages. That's only one report. And we all know the president approved of another SIU in that specific entity. And then just the issue about the tracing system, I beg your pardon, the tracing system while we were talking about list. So I know there is no official one, and I want to know why not. Because first of all, we have an excellent tracing system from Buffalo Analytics, as well as RMIS. Is there no negotiations with them to do it countrywide, officially for the department or any other partner? I don't know. Yesterday in concentrating, and I only know about these two, if there are any other. But surely those systems that they have can surely be used. I have first-hand experience of the Buffalo Analytics system. I see how they work, how their maps are updated. I know of RMIS. I have not visited them in their offices yet. So surely that must be sort of the foundation on which we can build, and not try and prolong and get everybody else from outside. I'll stick to that for today, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mkutama.
Thank you, Chair, and honorable members, and also members of the department. Comrade DG, just on the Agri-BEE matter, we just received the report from the commission responsible for that, and it makes for a very depressing reading in terms of the empowerment targets for Agri-BEE. We cannot sustain in the democratic order the reality that that sector remains colonial and untransformed. So I just want to check with you preliminarily as to what is the role of the department in meeting those targets, monitoring those targets, and if there's any relationship between the department and the commission itself, because we can't allow that situation to be sustained. Then there is the perennial problem. The president in his State of the Nation address promised 10,000 extension officers to be employed. DG, please, can you give us an update about this commitment and what is happening there? Then just a final question on the agricultural colleges. It seems to me that the logic driving the conversation is one of rationalization and cost cutting instead of expansion and assisting these colleges to assist these students to get funding. It cannot be that only because their colleges, they are unable to access the national student support scheme. It is absurd. It makes no sense whatsoever. And now we are going to try to create one institution which is national, and then to try to rationalize and get rid of other departments which are running these semi-autonomous institutions. I don't think it makes sense. It is going to undermine the possibility of creating a large number of young people with agricultural skills. And of course, as I already alluded to, the perennial problem of these young people with qualifications in agriculture but languishing at home in poverty. We must find a way in which graduates get access to further training and land so that they can become farmers because they're interested in farming. We are, as a nation, sabotaging the possibility for expanding and transforming the agricultural sector when there are young people who are already raising their hands to say they are here. But it seems to me that we are complicating this whole matter through conversations which are never ending around colleges. Must they remain autonomous? Must they be part of a national arrangement? When all we need is to sustain these colleges, give them the support they need, make sure that they are linked to industries so that also a further training can be realized, and we get a thriving agricultural sector. No, this conversation seems to me to be part of a delaying tactics and a refusal to serve our people and to transform this sector, which is a critical sector in terms of food security. You know, it's shocking that white farmers annually generate shocking profits through exporting food. But this nation is one of the nations with high food insecurity. So food is produced, but not for the nation. It's produced for the foreign markets because these farmers have no sense of national duty. They are only chasing profits. And we are failing to transform that sector to make sure that it is patriotic, it puts the country first, and it feeds the nation. So this department clearly, if we were to properly characterize it, is that it is sustaining the colonial, very racist agricultural sector, which does not work for the interests of the black majority. So there's a big challenge for transformation here, Chair. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mqitama. Honorable Sikout.
Thank you, Chair. And it's Sekwati, Chairperson.
Sekwati.
Sekwati.
All right, Sekwati.
Yes, thank you. Chair, mine is, I think a number of questions have been asked, and let me welcome the presentation that has been made by the three officials. Chair, mine is more on the colleges as to, is it not possible, because the manner in which it's presented, it looks like it's making the proposal a little bit complex, particularly when it comes to making a decision as a National Department of Higher Education. If you are giving this kind of options in terms of provinces where MECs have got to make, why don't you make the best proposal, that the one that you think, the department think is actually the best model to be followed, and say, this is the model, and you are then able to get as to what our MECs say. But if you're going to give provinces different models towards that, I think we're just making the matter a little bit complex, and it looks like we are a little bit indecisive in terms of dealing with the process. And secondly, how long is the process going to take? Because I think it has taken almost more than 5 years by now, if not more, in terms of deciding as to what should happen with these agricultural colleges. And I think it's important that we actually expedite the process so that we're able to ultimately conclude on this matter. and create certainty in terms of these colleges. The other one, Chair, is in terms of the issues of livestock traceability system, which I think I would want to actually link it with a broader question in terms of the areas in which the department is looking at modernization, but also using technology to deal with advancing, whether it's in terms of crops, whether it's in terms of livestock and so on, so that we've got a clear picture as to where is the department moving in terms of modernization, because today it's livestock, tomorrow it's going to be crops because of climate change and so on and so on. So I just want to understand as to whether do we have a very clear plan in terms of modernization in agriculture for the country. And the last one, Chair, is the issue of the targets in terms of food security and so on. Because I think if we are not able to ultimately reach the target in terms of food security, it becomes a problem. Particularly if you have a country that is not able to feed its own people, because it's actually driven by government. I think it actually creates a very sad picture for this government and the Department of Agriculture. So I think it's one of the areas as well that I think it needs to be expedited to make sure that at least we are able to have a clear agenda in terms of that area. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Ndabezi Takabelikhulu.
Ngibonge Sihlalo. Good afternoon to you and all members, the Deputy Minister, as well as the team from Agriculture. I think a lot has been said, Chair, with regards to the colleges, because my focus and my concern was around the colleges. For me, it's not a question, but a concern, Chair. We've seen this with the Department of Education when they were dealing with colleges, educational colleges. Those buildings that are built by taxpayers' money were simply left and unattended to, and now they've become just shelters for these what I call these people. I would use the word, but which some want to accept. These people who are sleeping on the streets. Chair, it's very concerning when one sees during the democratic government, we would destroy what was well maintained by the former TPVC states and self-governing authorities, when our government will then opt for these new approaches, but forget that those buildings were built by taxpayers' money. What about the people who are employed there? Here in agriculture, we are thinking of consolidating the managerial structure, or the lecturers, and maybe the managerial teams. But we are saying nothing about the ordinary laborers who were employed to work there. Are we true to ourselves when you say we would want to fight unemployment in the country, when we opt for such changes? Obviously, what has been happening in educational colleges is going to what we'll be seeing in agricultural colleges as well. I think we must be true to ourselves and to the ordinary citizens of the country to really care for them, because it shows those of us who are learned only think of securing good positions and opportunities for the land people. But with the rest of the citizens of the country, we don't give it. That's my concern. But I'm happy a lot has been raised by my colleagues with regards to how these structures are sort of leaving a gap as they are moving towards only focusing on converting or sort of releasing these staff members to the Department of Education, which has really failed our people. Some colleges have become the BNBs for those who were lucky enough to be in charge at the time when there were amalgamations and all that. Chair, I think I must stop there because a lot has been said by my colleagues with regards to how they view these integrations in the colleges. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. DG, DM, and the team. There is also a question by Honorable Trolip. It reads as follows. It seems that the implementation of fleets is becoming a national reality. For it to become a national reality is a long way off, which can seriously undermine all the positive intentions as presented. The consequences of this slow rollout will continue to constrain the sector as currently experienced, especially times of the animal health outbreaks, as with the FMD. Can this not be speeded up? That's the question. Maybe on my side, on the presentation, on the integration of colleges of agriculture into the higher education sector, is in relation to the slide that speaks about consultation, which is slide number 7. The presenter DG indicates that MECs have been consulted and others, they support the transfer, and they are mentioned as the Eastern Cape, Free State, Limpopo, and the Northwest. But the KZN requested further engagements for clarity, of which I believe the technical team, together with the minister, are busy with that. However, with the Western Cape, the presenter verbally so, because on the slide it says MEC Western Cape provided written communication. She further indicated that there were some concerns around this integration from the Western Cape. As the portfolio committee, I think it's very important, and I believe it's very important that we are briefed on those concerns so that we can as well ventilate our views in this regard. DM, this takes us to the end of our questions. I'm now going to hand over back the meeting to you.
Thank you very much, Chair and members of the Portfolio Committee. I am ready to respond to a few, but I will request the committee to allow the DG to try and respond to the many technical areas that were raised in this meeting. Thank you very much.
DG?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, and thanks a lot for the questions, the comments, and the guidance that was given in terms of the engagements. We will just concentrate in terms of the questions. The guidance given will be factored in terms of how the department would craft going forward. Allow me at this moment, Chair, to request that the responses come in this way. That we start off with Dr. Mlisani, who will give feedback in and around the matters relating to LEADS and its implementation, followed by Mayor Botsileng, who will give us an update in terms of the colleges. And then we can go to DDG Komape, who will give reflections on Agri-BEE. And then I will finish off the issues that were raised regarding the BRRR and some of the areas that are of a nature that would require my intervention, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, DG. And thank you once more to the questions from the honorable members. I will start off by answering the one big question from Honorable van der Walt related to Buffalo Analytics RMIS system. There are other systems, GMP Basic, and other traceability systems that have been placed on the table of the department. The concerns that are raised. Am I audible, DG?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear.
Looks like I'm not audible.
We can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you very much. The challenge that I have raised in my presentation with the many systems relate to the fact that if you have systems like Buffalo Analytics and RMIS, there is personal information of the farmers that is stored in these systems. Some of the systems like GMP Basic has their database stored, information stored overseas. And we don't seem to be protecting information of the farmers in that way. The other challenge becomes the fact that if we want to do analysis, our analytical information ends up being overseas or with one company like Buffalo Analytics and RMIS. I have indicated in my presentation that trading partners, when they come here with the understanding that there are a lot of systems available in each country, they find us or they fail us because they say that they want an official system that is the system that is controlled by government. And that is one area that in the veterinary strategy that we developed after the analysis by the World Organization for Animal Health, it was decided that we should come up with a database that will be accessible to the state and not be accessible to other organizations. But the attempts that we have been doing with the database that the CSIR has been developing for us, we will also try to look at communication between other systems for information that government will need. And so we don't disregard the other systems that are available, but we will be working hand in hand, but with special information only coming to government. But at the same time, there are other farmers that do not want their information to go into the RMIS system because they indicate that the information is shared with other farmers for basis on the basis of competitiveness. So that is the reason why we needed to develop an official system and not depend on other external systems. The the other question, I think it came from Honorable Member Trollip in terms of speeding up on the comment. At this moment, with the hope that the CSIR will be able to demonstrate, we are doing roll-out of the second phase, where we are conducting training at various provinces and other users for us to be able to implement as soon as legally applicable or allowed. So the process at this moment, we are very happy to say that the development is complete and the rollout, the testing has been going on for the past 2 weeks, and we are ready to implement. Maybe going also to the first question by Honorable Aris, the most damning evaluation that the country had was the evaluation from the World Organization for Animal Health, which actually spoke about performance of veterinary services. Yes, we have been evaluated by the EU, who, amongst other things, were concerned about the lack of an official system. We have been evaluated by the USA, who were also concerned about the same thing. And then the Saudi market and the Middle East market also, especially Saudi Arabia, were indicating that we don't have an official livestock system. And we were very fortunate when we were evaluated by China, because they went to KwaZulu-Natal, especially the northern side, where they found the phase 1 of the livestock identification and traceability system being applicable. And then the other question on the Sakele Khadiji, if you allow me to go to this one, particularly on vaccine availability. The understanding is the lead system will also be in a position to look at vaccine usage, and then also approvals that will be granted by the department through the Director Animal Health, so as to avoid a situation where vaccines are not being used properly, or they are being accumulated by one area, because there is still an understanding that there's going to be permission being given to farmers to import these vaccines. There was also a question from Honorable Sekwati related to the identification and traceability of plants, and then also of livestock and their products. The intention with the leads is not really to look at the plant traceability issues, but as we indicated in the process flow, if the system is working very well, hoping that colleagues from the CSIR will have an opportunity to demonstrate. We can also look at where the plants, where the animals that are infected with a particular disease have gone to, and be able to trace them from that point of view. And if there is interest from the plant colleagues, the system can also be developed to look at the plant traceability issues. I want to believe that I responded to majority of the questions that were asked related to leads. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you, DG.
DG?
Mabuseling?
Thank you, DG, and thank you, Chair. I will start with the questions from Honorable van der Walt. The question was around the registration of private agricultural colleges. We need to respond, Honorable Member, to indicate that all higher education institutions, private and public, are registered by the Department of Higher Education and Training. The Department of Agriculture does not have records nor keep records of the institutions, private or public, that are registered. It is the competence of Department of Higher Education and Training. Then Honorable van der Walt also expressed concern around NSF projects and them being unsuccessful. We can also respond by indicating that within the agriculture sector, and particularly projects that we applied for grant funding from NSF, we have never had any case of projects that were not completed, and I must indicate that NSF has always, in this department in particular, assisting the provinces, has been our bailout, especially for the students studying in colleges of agriculture, considering that they do not qualify for NSFAS. It is through NSF that we apply, and we are able through that grant to offer them a bursary. Just the end of the previous financial year, we had 241 million, and we were able to give 1,800 college students a bursary. And we just had almost a looming strike around these students who are unable to fund their studies. And we had, again, the department had applied. We just also received a confirmation of our approval, and it's based on figures, how many students for which study fields in these colleges of agriculture. And our honorable member, our benefit from NSF has always been two-pronged. The other part is that we do not have enough funds to train farmers and provide mentorship. And NSF, again, in this instance, has always been our cushion. We would apply and they give us grant. We use numbers, we collate numbers from provinces, and as far as the farmers, they need them to be trained to complement what a comprehensive agriculture development program would have offered them through grant funding. And we have a different story, Honorable Member. NSF really has assisted us, and we have kept our records and reported, and we never had even AGSA issues. They come, they ask questions around those projects, and the department is able to respond accordingly. The other question that was around the colleges was the student throughput. We acknowledge that not all the students that graduate from these colleges are able to, others are entrepreneurial, they need land. We do not have control in giving them all the necessary land and startup packs that they need. But 5 years ago, the department, realizing this, have since initiated a program that we call a graduate placement program. Immediately when they finish from these colleges, we place them on farms for a period of 2 years biannually. We pay their stipend for further exposure, and that has yielded much fruit. Most of them do not even leave the farms that have absorbed them. Some still finish and are still unemployed, but a number of them, that program has assisted them. Honorable Sekwati asked a question around our indecisiveness around just being bold and indicating that this is the preferred model and not still ask for confirmation. That was the approach. The two ministers, Honorable Sekwati, had in a meeting, official meeting, took a decision that their preferred model will be the model where all these 11 colleges will still exist, but will be under the ambit and the administration of one college, just to try and assist them better. It just happened that at that time, two MECs, one was not necessarily negating the process, but just wanted more clarity. Unfortunately, there was a change of administration before that meeting could take place. And that was the question again posed by Honorable Nkabane. But the issue of Western Cape, they are very clear. There's numerous letters where the MEC wrote to the previous two ministers indicating that they still believe that the Elsenburg should still be retained in the Western Cape province and not be part of this process. And then Honorable Ngicama around the 10,000 extensionist, we acknowledge, and it's a discussion internally, honorable member, around that extension of 10,000 extension officers as per the president's announcement. We do not, it is an unaffordable instruction on our side. We have even, in our consultation, we've presented to National Treasury. We couldn't really get the best of the funding that we needed. Even our last attempt was just to say, how about we place them, we appoint them rather for just 2 years, and we needed something like 1.7 billion, not going for the 10,000. We couldn't get that much. DG has even gone to the extent of meeting with the presidential envoy to discuss this. So at the moment, we do not have funding to roll out this 10,000 extensionists. The only appointment that is happening, honorable member, is through natural attrition in the provinces as and when the extension officers leave the system. Of course, we collate such information of how many are being appointed annually. The other questions came from Honorable Aris. Why the delay around this process? And the process did not even start in 2020. It started a long time ago in 2012 when the Council on Higher Education was, by the request of the department, went through these colleges and realized the state at which they are operating and advised the then Minister of Higher Education to say, what is happening in these colleges legislatively is an anomaly. And we can indicate that this process and this project is entirely dependent mostly on political decisions, and it is done between two departments depending on the two ministers. Even right now, there's a need for the two ministers to meet because the previous minister that met with the Minister of Higher Education has since changed portfolios. So it is intensely had a political dependency. It's one of the, we cannot as officials just finish the decisions at an MEC level, but we have since briefed our new minister and he is in support of continuing with the consultation. And Honorable Aris also asked about the costing exercise for this, for each model. Honorable member, we don't have a costing for each model, but in 2017, that we conducted a study in the 11 sites to check how much the infrastructure will cost, how much would for these colleges to operate as centers of excellence in the sector. And at that time, the team that did that study came up about to say we will need at least to the tune of 35 billion to be able to, these colleges, their infrastructure, labs and student accommodation and all that, that is the amount. But by each model that we are presenting here, such a cost analysis has not had happened. Honorable Ndalani, the legal status of the colleges, these colleges are still currently, honorable member, being administered provincially, and the timeline that you are asking for, we can confirm that based on the latest meeting between the two ministers, when it was the previous minister, they had agreed on the date of 1 April 2027. And how much have we got in terms of the budget from National Treasury? National Treasury is part of this process through the provincial treasuries, but at the moment there is no money confirmed by National Treasury for this process in particular. And there was a question again from Honorable Ndalani to say, in this current financial year, how much has National Treasury or the department nationally allocated to these colleges. Due to FMG, the 2026-27 allocation for these colleges was reprioritized by National Treasury, but through our engagement with them, they indicated that the cut is only for this current financial year. That amount, which is not much, will continue in the next financial year. And Honorable Ngabenkulu raised his concern to say he's drawing from the experience of the then teachers' colleges in the country that a transformation of this sort happened, and the buildings ended up not being unutilized. We can confirm, Honorable Member, that in this case, no college at its current status now will, through this integration process, be moved or be left unutilized. In fact, this process is intending to expand the college sector instead of rationalizing it. The aspect of rationalization only comes from the financial and human resource capacity point of view, not to find government paying 165 councils to 11 colleges when that governance could have been consolidated and still be spread over the 11 facilities. There's no facility that will be closed or that will lose its current status. The intention of this process is rather even to expand them. Honorable member, I think I have also responded, or there was a question from Honorable Mtetwa around the unemployed graduates. I have responded to that question to say the one, besides helping them through CASP, those that already have farms or operational entities, and we push that youth should also benefit. There's even a target. And as far as our norms and standards in the department, when we CASP through business planning is being allocated for provinces, that's the only way that our graduates who already own enterprises or farms are benefiting. But over and above that is the program that we have already alluded to, the one on unemployed graduates, whereby annually we recruit 1,000, and we have divided the quota per provinces. Bigger provinces like your Eastern Cape, your KZN would place close to 120 to 140. Smaller provinces, we support them, we pay the stipend to this unemployed graduate and place them on farms to just improve their level of employability. I thank you, DG. I submit.
Thank you very much. Can I be?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you to the honorable members of the committee, Honorable GM and DG and colleagues. I have been requested to answer the questions on the Agri-B Fund. Actually, I should be the first person to really concede that and accept the criticism that we are getting out of the fund. The way it is, its sluggishness, and perhaps the fact that we didn't give the progress as the members would have expected that would do. Excuse me. Honorable Chair, through you, I just want to indicate that that the sluggishness of the fund, it's something that worried our former Minister, Medi Diza. And in 2020, she ordered that we look into the fund because the uptake was very, very, very low. And as we did that in 2020. And on the 1st of June, 2025, we started with the implementation of the recommendations that we got for the reform of the fund. And to be honest, to the honorable members through you, Honorable Chair, there has been an improvement in the uptake of the fund compared to before we we implemented the recommendations. As an example, I would say for the year 2024-25, that was before the implementation of the reforms, we approved to the transactions to the value of around 24 million. And if you compare the 25 to the 26 approval of the transactions, we have approval to the value of 177 million. So meaning that the fund is indeed taking shape, and there is a pipeline that is building around it. Excuse me. There is a pipeline that is building around the fund. There was another question from Honorable Kutama with regards to the report from the Commission. Honorable Chair, I must indicate that I tried to scratch my head. Maybe perhaps we're not aware of the report from the Commission, not even sure whether it's the BE Commission or which commission. So if Honorable can just bring that report to our attention, we'll have a look at it. I submit, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. As we look at further the issues that were raised by honorable members, with specific reference to mainly issues that were within the BRRR, I would first go to Honorable Aris. Honorable Aris, you are correct. The absence of senior managers in any system would have a huge impact in terms of how the particular entity would perform. And without any doubt, we have seen significant risk that materialized in terms of the organizational effectiveness and also leadership within the various strategic areas that we had in terms of execution, in terms of governance, in terms of delivery and performance, I think could have been better. However, there are areas that we had highlighted to the portfolio committee that it is quite tried that the system that we have is too evolutionary in terms of the way that it is staged. The Department of Agriculture, in its current state and form, has never had stability for the past few years with the restructuring processes. And each and every restructuring processes comes with a stop mechanism that says that we must come up with a fit-for-purpose structure. Only after the fit-for-purpose structure has been approved, then you can move. That's a year. You have got another year then to adjust the systems and move in terms of those. And that takes time, and it causes a lot of flux in the department because it affects the way that you want to effect recruitment, because you cannot be timely in terms of recruitment because you're looking at restructuring and saying some of those posts that you might have advertised might still be redundant in terms of the new view that you are having. And only then when you are done with the fit for purpose can you be able to recruit and ensure that you bring people in. It also has got an impact in terms of talent management in the department because because of this flux that you have in the system is unable to retain, and you have got a problem in terms of institutional leadership and also continuity in terms of the system. But we hope that we will be able to get it right. And if one looks at the way that any organization would respond to a major restructuring process, the phases where we are, at least agriculture is monolithic, and you can start in terms of that process to build around agriculture and the expertise around agriculture going forward. And with us having submitted our fit for purpose to the DPSA, we are confident that we will be able then to start filling vacancies, especially those vacancies, Honorable Aris, around financial responses of our department. Because if you don't, we are likely to struggle going forward as a department. And that's something that we have got to make a huge indication around. The next level of question that you had asked was about leads, but Dr. Mdisane has responded to the leads question, but I need to just have a matter of emphasis on one area, whether leads will be compulsory or not. A compulsory system can only be effected when there is legislation. And with the current different levels of engagements that we are having, we have got to take that decision as a country. The policy says that we must have that legislation. There were discussions with industry in terms of how that looks like. And this ties in with what Honorable Trolip was saying. Let's roll it out. The question in terms of rolling out, how do we do it? And I said in terms of the engagements yesterday, the best way that we can do it is to recognize that, also responding to Honorable Van der Waals' question, the best way that we can do it is to ensure that we recognize that our existing system, but those systems that are existing should be able to interface with our system, the government system. They should be able to be ensure that there's interoperability of systems that you are having. And ultimately, if there's a need for you to do some data mining that would be guided by IP rights and those, you can be able to do that to ensure that you can have enough information that would ensure that any system in a country would run. So that issue around whether it will be mandatory or not, it's dependent on legislation. And in the meantime, in the absence of legislation that deals with identification and traceability, we will utilize that intervention and ensure that the systems are interfacing, interoperable in the meantime. The issue around how much did we lose in terms of markets, in terms of exports, Honorable Aris. The country has lost close to, in terms of data, 5.6 billion exports of beef to other countries. So it's sizable, mostly to China. And in terms of the dairy, the estimation is 1 billion. But what is currently happening is that the National Agricultural Marketing Council is actually coming to with the real figures in terms of that, because you have got, in terms of economics, you have got forward and backward linkages that would be impacted by FMD. And that study is going to ensure that it's inclusive and would be able to give us a compound effect of FMD in the economy. Honorable Dalane had asked around the state land allocation and support policy. Now, honorable members would recall that in 2020, Cabinet approved the beneficiary selection and land allocation policy. Within that policy, apart from giving preference to youth, women, and persons with disabilities, there's also an explicit indication that concentration should also be on graduates, agriculture with agricultural background, and that is where we need to be concentrating, and that is leading me to what Honorable Tama was saying on how are we actually doing on ensuring that the youth are involved, because we already have got a skill. Honorable Tama, I need to say this, and I'm saying this with a lot of trepidation in and around it. The best shot that South Africa has in terms of ensuring that the agriculture prospers is to ensure that our graduates are supported and our graduates are able to access land and are able to farm, because the basic is already there. It is one of those aspirations that I individually harbor, that we are able to move into that space where land allocation, or as I had indicated, the beneficiary selection and land allocation policy refocuses majorly on shifting towards knowledge-based farmers that would ensure that we move our food security upwards. And they are ready, they come from our colleges, and they are trained, and all that we need rightfully, as Honorable Mteto was saying, it's a mentorship program that Melewe had spoken to that would ensure that they are given those farms and they are able to farm. Now, one of the areas that Honorable Tutama had asked about was around the 10,000 extension officers, and my colleague Mebu Tseleng has responded to it. But I need to say this because this has been sitting with the department for the past almost 4 years. And personally for me, it's sitting like an albatross around my neck. And I argue this, honorable members. If the president gives a policy direction, all of us have got to turn towards that policy direction and ensure that the policy direction to get the funding that would really ensure that we are able to deal with the extension. As a former extension officer myself, I would say that for us to have a productive, competitive, and sustainable agricultural sector, extension sits at the center of it. For us to have improved agricultural productivity, ensure that disease control, and also strengthen food security, market access, and concentrate on rural development, there is no way that we can do it without extension. And the promotion of transformation that Honorable Tutama was talking about is the responsibility of extension, because only through extension would you be able to have the reach and also the influence in terms of a farmer, because the engagement with the farmer is the source of the major source of our transformation of agriculture and agricultural programs in the country. And to this effect, we are engaging with the National Treasury to ensure that we can be able to deal with this. Extension officers are very important. And that is why even in our reprioritization, when we realized that we might not be getting funding from National Treasury, we had reprioritized from the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program to deal with this. But it's just a drop in an ocean of unemployment, of young people who are really pining for this sector. And the passion is there. When we had engagements in and around G20 that is being headed by DM Cup, evidence would show you that the youth in agriculture are actually passionate about the sector and they want to make a change. The Honorable Mketwa, you have asked the question, who guards the guards? And I would say that it's a governance issue that is very important. Because as we deal with the governance around vaccine procurement, we need to guard against supply chain shortages because of the inefficiencies that might be in both places, either public or private. And I would need to emphasize that there needs to be closer cooperation between public and private to ensure that at any given stage, vaccine availability, distribution, and vaccination happens at all stages. We need to ensure that there are no cold chain failures. We need to ensure that there are no procurement delays in between. And in our risk mitigation, I think we need to ensure that it needs to be embedded in terms of the procurement planning, which is at the source of procurement here. The interesting part on who champions this. The current system that is in place has not done away with SAPRA being responsible for the regulation of unregistered vaccines in the country. It has not also done away with the need for the Department of Agriculture to issue a permit after SAPRA has okayed the import. So that system is still in place. It just needs to be streamlined in terms of what was agreed. But that point, like I said yesterday, is a point running around FMD because you would want to be accountable. Responding to the next issue that was on the table, I think it was from Honorable Squati. Dr. Mudisani has responded, but I think what is amiss, and I hear the question that you are having, Honorable Squati, to be saying, We are talking about now technology that would assist us in terms of livestock identification and traceability. Do we have a composite way of how do we look at technology development in the sector and where government would like to land on these areas? And I would say that although we do not have the assimilation and adoption of technology in the sector, I think it's far much wider than many of the sectors because the farmers embrace that. And I think your issue that you have raised, we will take through in terms of the Agriculture and Agro-Forestry Master Plan. And we develop that stream that would also be looking at the broad use of technology or even new technologies that are there, except from ICT, including those that might be for breeding and other advancements. Mayor Butseling has responded, Honorable Chair, to Honorable Tsebekulu, but I think he raises a matter that we also need to take heed of, around how we need to closely guard the process of the seeding of the mandate of agricultural colleges so that we learn from the lessons that were learned from the colleges of education. And I think for me, that's something that we need to heed because that is a lesson that is very painful. We sit here, Chair, in terms of from us as the department, and we hand over to you and Honorable Dear.
Honorable DM, do you want to make some comments?
A few, very few, Chairperson. Thank you, DG. Thank you very much. I would also, listening to all the inputs that were responding to the honorable members, I think what also has actually affected the Department of Agriculture, not necessarily wanting to say this is the reason why we lacked answers. I mean, we lacked full information to an extent that we had to ask questions. On the issue of livestock identification, I think, DG, this is a very, very old culture of agriculture. I remember they were even cut on ears in a different way to identify one's animal from others. It has moved to this level today. However, I think it is not right to completely cut off what used to work before, because you have now a new methodology. For example, even with the foot and mouth, we always knew before it that when there's an issue of attending to animals, I mean the normal health of animals like your vaccinations and so on, I remember that there are dipping tanks. And dipping tanks are the best area where you go if you actually searching for the number of animals in that particular area. But this part of our implementation as the department is now very low because there are people who don't see it as law to take their animals to the dipping tank in order to prevent other diseases, including actually looking into the numbers and all that can be done. Also treating animals like cutting your horns like that, or actually identification. But also we should be in a position to avoid to use this new technology as the only way, because many times people go, they actually have their animals identified, they pay the fee, they then have these coming to Pretoria to be done whatever, but they then remain a long period before they can be taken back to that deep rule. So you find that they say, no, our livestock still gets stolen, but we have applied. It takes time to reach them. So I think in our technological development, we must indeed find ways of ensuring that there's a direct intervention in areas where such activities are not yet there because there is no infrastructure to do that. I think the members also will remember that the topic that we have engaged on the issue of the colleges, there was, if you will remember very well, there was a decision that report will be given directly to the portfolio committee, after which the portfolio committee would make arrangement to meet with the portfolio committee on education, on higher education. I think that meeting remains a gap, because I don't think MECs or ministers can simply agree to something that requires some political inputs. And it can't be a full consultation, DG, if I remember, because provinces have got a way that is established of consulting. And it is also a bit awkward that we have no input from student bodies, because this education is them who are benefiting it. But on our side, we are overseeing it so that we are in a position to make necessary suggestions to the department to make changes, or whatever department, not necessarily ours. I think the political space seem to have gaps in this arrangement, Chair. And I wish when we have, you have your planning for us coming to report, we will have to see whether the politicians were given a space to make their suggestion. And this decision, if it's taken, I think it's a major decision to take, so that if a province is to be decided for at this arrangement by us at a national, we might find ourselves a little bit not having consulted fully. I agree with the input, and DG, I must say, how they responded is how I also was listening to the questions. And I hope the honorable members were able actually to get satisfaction, or have another time when we have a meeting to finish up those areas which they were feeling were not fully answered. We also thank you, Chairperson, all the members, that you gave us this opportunity, and we are able to interact in this manner. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ADM. I see Honorable van der Walt. There is a hand. I'm not sure whether is it a legal hand or you also want to make a follow-up.
Chairperson, sorry, can you also recognize Honorable Aris? I want to make a follow-up, please. I cannot raise my hand.
Chair, sorry, that is
Honorable members, let me just note those who want to make follow-ups. I see Honorable Aris, I see Honorable Tetwa. Who else, Honorable members?
Chair, I'm taking down my hand. It is a legacy hand, not an old hand. Thank you.
Okay. We only have 2 honorable members who want to make follow-up questions. Honorable Aris.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for allowing me to do this follow-up. Chairperson, I just want to check with the DG. The DG must indicate for us, when did they submit their fit-for-purpose structure to DPSA? And then they must, and when is it likely going to get a response to enable filling of critical vacancies? The DG must just give us that indication. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mthethwa.
Thank you, Chair. I needed us to also take caution of the following, that there was a disturbing message that came from one of the economics lecture. I think it was from Dutch University. He was saying, we must not allow Africa to industrialize because the entire European welfare is dependent on Africa. I'm now coming back to say, I see the tendency, this thing of procuring and importing goods and services from abroad is actually responding to this narrative that is advanced by Europe that we should not industrialize. Then we are coming from an Iran-US war, wherein the Strait of Hormuz has actually lock-jammed the movement of goods and services, wherein food, fuel, fertilizer was affected, such that it will affect the entire world in terms of food security. So I am moving from the idea that let us make sure we have local content in terms of goods and services, implements that are used in the agricultural sector, so that we don't export jobs as we export raw materials into the foreign countries, but instead the secondary goods and the secondary industry and the tertiary industry value addition must happen here, so that the job creation issue we're crying about, it is because we are giving it away to countries that add value, and we're not adding value locally. An industry of agriculture is importing many things that they are using, but they are not producing local, and that is something that we need to push for as we do this work. Thank you.
DM and DG, agro-processing, as well as fit-for-purpose structure that has been submitted to DPSA.
Over to you, DG, please.
Thank you very much, DM. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, Honorable Aris and Honorable Mthethwa for the questions. The submission of the fit for purpose to the DPSA was in the month of April, and we expect that they would be able to respond to us anytime soon based on the enormity of the structure that we had. But in the meantime, Honorable Aris, what we are doing is that we are filling vacancies in the current structure that were not affected because there were some posts that were affected and would have been absorbed into the fit for purpose in terms of them being redundant, but there are those that would exist irrespective of the fit for purpose, and we are currently filling those vacancies as we speak within the department. On the matter that Honorable Mthethwa is raising, yes, Honorable Mthethwa, you are right. Part and parcel of the agriculture and agro-processing master plan is to ensure that we actually do value addition at home with that agro-processing part of it being very important, and creating industries out of the various industries that we have as a sector. If one looks, I don't have the stats with me here, but agro-processing in terms of its movement, and you add it to agriculture, you suddenly have got a different picture of agriculture. While it contributes 3%, I think there's an addition of towards 9% or so towards the economy once you go to agro-processing. And that figure, which I'll just check, can be increased to move ahead. If you look generally in terms of the study that was done not so long ago, in terms of the backward and forward linkages of agriculture, that value chain contributes 14% to the economy of our country. just imagine that 14% being expunged out of the economy, then you have got a huge part of the economy out, because it has got a support in terms of the ecosystem that we are generally having. So processing it's very important. However, here's another part that's very important, is that at the at SADC level, and also at the Africa level, in terms of the Africa Union, within the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, and within SADC, within the ministerial declarations that we have had, part of it is to ensure that we build regional value chains and ensure that products that are being exported here would have had to have value add. Secondly, there's an element to say that we have actually right through the continent, South Africa specifically, we have actually had a challenge in terms of our broader context of ensuring that we address the issue of fertilizer production, notwithstanding that we might have factor endowments that we are actually not so strong on, including potassium, but we used to produce quite a lot of fertilizer, and ensuring that we produce the inputs that we are going to utilize for our industries also assists us in terms of consolidation, in terms of jobs, and ensuring that the sector grows from within to outside instead of from outside going outside, because it sometimes leads to a zero-sum game. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, DG. Chairperson, I think we are done.
Thank you so much. I didn't know that I'm muted. Thank you so much, DM and DG and honorable members, especially your team, DM, for taking us through these comprehensive responses as the portfolio committee, as we continue to play our oversight role over the department. Then on behalf of the committee, I want to thank you all for your participation as well as your constructive engagement. I now declare the meeting as adjourned. Thank you so much. The announcement, I've forgotten, there's one announcement. I just want to remind honorable members that tomorrow we are again meeting as the portfolio committee to consider, we are going to consider our program. We are also going to consider it's the program. What else? Albertina?
Just also to the review of the strat plan.
Yes, and the review of the strategic plan. We are starting in the morning. We are going to be done around 12:30 to 1 o'clock, right? Thank you so much,
Yes.
members and the department, DM, and your technical team. Thank you. Bye.